For the year 2020, I'm making a video review for every new movie I watch, whether in theaters or at home, and on March 12th, I watched A Funny Thing Happened on the way to the Forum. Welcome to my year in movies. This is talking to myself. If things look a little different, I'm using my phone instead of my handheld camera. I wanted to try and mess around with how it looks, so I wanted to see how this compared. I also have bangs. The bangs won't affect the video quality, they just make me happy. Basically, A Funny Thing Happened on the way to the Forum is about this wily, self-serving slave named Pseudolus as he tries to buy his freedom by helping his young master court, woo, and marry a girl next door. Despite my long history with musical theater, both listening to it and being in shows, I had never seen the show, had never listened to the show. I didn't realize there was a film version of this show, and I didn't know it was a Stephen Sondheim show because it wasn't 3.5 hours too long, and it's just so goofy. It doesn't seem like his kind of thing. One of the things that makes this a weird musical in general is that there's like 6 songs and one of them is a reprisal. And honestly, I think I like that more. Like, Phantom of the Opera is probably my favorite musical of all time, and it's, for all intents and purposes, sung through. But this show, by comparison, is very pared down, and what songs are in the show, they're very tight, very comedic, and I think they serve some purpose, even if that purpose is distracting Sudniks by singing about hot maids. It manages to keep things moving at a pretty steady pace, and that's kind of a complaint a lot of people have with classic musicals, is that the songs are more like literal showstoppers, is the progression of the show comes to a halt, so we can do a song and dance number because Ethel Merman, this is like her shtick. But that's not the case here. I think the songs are a lot of fun. The way they improved on the song Lovely is fantastic. Lovely, I think, is probably the weakest song in the show, like where I genuinely found myself kind of checking out of the song. But they do a reprisal later, subverting the like hero and Philia frolicking through the gardens, and it's beautiful. They do it again, but this time Pseudolus and Hysterium are recreating what we saw earlier in the show, and it saves the song. It makes the first version of Lovely worth keeping. I am a sucker for period pieces with modern sensibilities, and this show is definitely that in spades. It reminds me a lot of the show Plebs, a show that I haven't seen but feel like I would enjoy if I ever did see. And the names are just fantastic too. Erroneous is probably my favorite name, and he's played by the late great Buster Keaton, who at 70 and dying of cancer was still doing his own stunts, which is just incredible. He was fantastic. And when I found out Zero Mostel was playing Pseudolus, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He's from like a rare breed of actors that was doing it all, and he made the transition from stage to film very seamlessly. He's also in the 1967 version of The Producers, which I may have to watch now that I've seen him do his thing. He also played Tevye. I think he originated Tevye. Question mark. I don't know. But he's a very consummate performer, and I think older musical movies could get away with having Broadway performers just kind of step into place and do it too. Phil Silvers as Marcus Lycus was a lot of fun. Phil Silvers, it drove me nuts the whole time because I was like, I know I've seen him. And the only credit I recognized was for It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And while I have seen parts of that movie, I don't recall Phil Silvers specifically. But Phil Silvers is a tremendous Marcus Lycus. Quite personally, if I were in A Funny Thing Happened on the way to the Forum, I would really like to be Marcus Lycus. I don't care that it's written for a guy. Yes, that is me, a brothel owner. That is me. And baby Michael Crawford, looking like the love child of George Harrison and Willem Dafoe. Who knew that this goofy, gangly dork would someday play the Phantom of the Opera? It comes full circle, really. The dialogue I also adore. It's very fast-paced, it's clever, it's just funny. Like, I laughed out loud several times, and I was watching this by myself. I think it's a staple of older movies that is going at a theater pace. They're just not pausing for laughter. And there were so many lines that were just hilarious. Arrange food, drink, entertainment, and a sit-down orgy for 14. Wait, yes, a brilliant idea. Yes, that's what we need, is a brilliant idea. Is it contagious? Have you ever seen a plague that wasn't? Rather than let you down, I would die. That's what I had in mind. For us, there will never be happiness. We must learn to be happy without it. Had to turn up my computer brightness because I use my phone for lighting. But basically, those are just a handful of the best lines, and it really, which is really like inaccurate to say that the best lines can be measured, because the whole movie is just a continuous train of the best lines, and they never stop being funny for the entire runtime. And ultimately, I really appreciate that it's a movie that knows it's a movie. I am not one to begrudge producers or filmmakers who make changes to the plot, the structure, whatever, to make a musical work on screen. I'm grateful to movie studios who take risks on making film versions of musicals, because the target demographic for those is often the harshest critic, when that's sometimes the only way musical theater can be seen, period. And sometimes those changes make the story better. I will maintain that the placement of I Dreamed a Dream in the film version of Les Mis is way better than the placement in the musical, and I happen to like the Hairspray movie a lot more than the stage show. It's just how it be. So the best way to watch this has huge drama club lock-in energy, but don't let your lack of peers stop you from watching this movie. I watched it by myself and had a great time. It has, late Friday night romp energy with your pizza and your Mountain Dew, or something a little heavier if you're sneaky. I don't endorse underage drinking. It's meant to be enjoyed to the fullest. It is something light and fun, laugh out loud, hysterical. And I think in a world where this is often swapped, where we have tragedy tonight and we're not guaranteed comedy tomorrow, take an opportunity to flip it, have a little comedy tonight. This has been My Year in Movies. Thank you for watching.